And we're up against Joe Biden, who is this addled dinosaur out of touch, who was drummed out of the previous presidential primaries for being a plagiarist and a liar, and who is now very credibly accused of sexual assault.
Is Joe Biden unfit to be president of the United States? Let me count the ways.
He's the perfect emblem of a dying, gasping, hollow husk of the Democratic establishment. He's like the perfect emblem and mascot for that. So, you know, when I see him out there, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what they want. This is exactly who they are. Just some empty husk reading from notes that they can sort of push and direct in the right direction, because ultimately, what is he promising? Nothing will fundamentally change. So what do you need? You don't need to do anything. Just kind of man the ship, you know, put the regular people back in place. That's all that they've ever promised, and that's exactly what he represents. It's also notable, he was asked about Medicare for All in that same interview. That was a good interview that she did, although she did not ask about the fact that there is sexual assault allegation against him, which kind of seems unconscionable.
Well, you can't expect them to do everything.
And important thing that's going on, which I'm sure if Brett Kavanaugh had been on, I'm sure they would have let him off the hook on that as well, though. So it's, of course, not a double standard at all. But he got asked also about Medicare for All and if his opinion of that had changed. Of course, he had said that he would veto it, essentially, if it came to his desk, even if it was able to pass the House and the Senate. And he said no, his opinion hasn't changed. Even as we watch this crisis unfold, even as he, like Kamala Harris, is calling for testing and treatment to be covered for coronavirus. Well, why does this illness get preferential treatment over if you're dying of cancer or you're dying of some other illness or disease? Because that still, doesn't deserve payment. But, it also just shows that all the talk and bluster about we're reaching out to Bernie Sanders supporters, we're going to bring young people on board, like it's all hollow. They're never going to do what it takes.
As I've said before, all they want to do is make sure Bernie doesn't get in. They absolutely know that Biden can't defeat Donald Trump under any economic circumstances. They simply must block Bernie.
You should be held accountable by voting no. It matters what people say. It matters what they do. Their conduct matters.
Talking to someone, they went away, and then he said, "Come here." And then when I gave him the gym bag, it happened all in one motion. But I remember the assault itself, and then the aftermath, and the reverberating effect of that.
But success will come when the societal attitude changes, and women, not a single woman in America, asks herself the question, what did I do? What did I do?
Something to that effect. And that's what kind of jolted me. Like I was trying to think what I did wrong to bring that on.
Was it what I was wearing? Should I have not raised my voice? Never, never, never is it the woman's fault, other than in self-defense. Never. Never.
And he had me against the wall, and then his hands were down my skirt and up my skirt.
We have to change the culture that allows the abuse of women and men, and it must be clear that no means no. No means no, whether it's in the classroom, in the backseat of a car, on a mall, or in your bedroom, and you start and you change your mind. No means no. Period.
He was just trying to kiss me, and I was pulling away. And what I remember of that time is feeling really shocked, surprised, because there was no real conversation right beforehand. There was no precursor. It just happened. And then when he did that, I was obviously pulling away.
What difference does it make what a woman was wearing?
And I was wearing, I wasn't wearing face or anything. And he then, with his hand, went from there and entered me with his hand, and as he was trying to kiss me and saying things to me.
But still, today, the question get asked, were you drinking? What did you say? Why did you offend him?
And he pulled back and said, come on, man, I heard you liked me.
Buried deep in our psyche as a culture is the idea, if it wasn't stranger rape, somehow the woman must have done something to provoke this.
He looked angry and irritated with me. That's when I knew it was really, I was in a very difficult position, because he was my boss and he was like my dad's age at the time.
When consent cannot be given, it is assault, it is a crime. It is a crime. It is a crime. Period.
And I trusted him and looked up to him, and it was not like I disliked him. I liked him, but I just didn't like him in that way. And it was just shocking. It was shattering, actually. And he said to me when he pulled back, he pointed his finger at me and he said, "You're nothing to me. You're nothing." And then he straightened his clothes and he went away. And I don't remember. I know I went to the restroom to clean up, but I don't remember exactly. I remember the next memory I have is of the Russell building. There's these long windows that are very tall, and this empty kind of like, there's back stairs. And I was sitting on the back stairs, and I just remember the cold and my whole body shaking and feeling alone and feeling scared and not knowing what to do, who to talk to. And I knew I had made him angry because I insulted him by pulling away and stuff. It was awkward and horrible.
So of course we can call out Joe Biden for this, but shouldn't we also be calling out the establishment around him that tries to protect him? Let's call out the corporate media who won't report on this. Let's call out the elite Democrats who hide their tweets that were critical of Brett Kavanaugh.
And a lot of Biden's supporters are starting to realize just how loud their hypocrisy has been, and they're trying to scrub it. If you look at Jill Filipovic, she's a noted feminist writer. She's a big-time lawyer. She started a feminist blog back in the day. And if you note Symone Sanders, who is a paid advisor on the Biden campaign, both of them have gone back on Twitter, gone back on social media, and scrubbed prior mentions of Brett Kavanaugh, because they know that in those tweets, they were holding Brett Kavanaugh to account, and crucially, they were criticizing the defenders of Brett Kavanaugh, the people who were excusing his actions, who used tropes, anti-woman tropes, to try to discredit Dr. Christine Ford. And they're doing the same things, and Biden's supporters are doing the same things right now to Tara Reade. And so when it came to choose between sticking up for your supposed values, which is to say, when women are brave enough to come forward and criticize powerful men, we should believe them. They actually discarded that, deleted those tweets, and went ahead and continued to defend Joe Biden. Because if it was a choice between sticking to their values and being able to defend their guy because it's their team that's on the defensive with regard to allegations, they clearly chose the latter.
Even though we don't have much time to turn this thing around, there is a strategy that we also need to pound home while we have the chance. If even 15% of Sanders supporters will vote directly for Donald Trump in the general election, particularly if they live in Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania, then it's game over. Right now, the more savvy, comfortable Democrats understand this. The diehard blue dog Democrats understand this. But mainstream, comfy, suburban Democrats don't get it yet. they don't realize that it's already over. The Twitterverse is not representative of the low information suburban Democrats in general. But on Twitter, the hashtag was trending, 15% of Bernie, which was short for 15% of Bernie supporters will vote directly for Donald Trump. If we could get this particular message out around the corporate media blockade, things might turn around quickly. Yesterday, I outlined a strategy on Facebook for getting out around the media blockade, so if you're interested in helping spread this particular message, check out yesterday's show.
And there was another element of this poll which got a lot of play online, which is that 15% of Bernie Sanders supporters surveyed by ABC News said that they would support Trump over Biden in the fall. And they took a lot of heat. I'm actually curious for your perspective. They were like, oh, this shows that the Bernie people are about to swing it for Trump again and all of this. And of course, it makes perfect sense to me.
And of course, they're going to blame, when Joe loses to Trump, they'll 100% blame Bernie Sanders supporters no matter what. So let's keep that in mind.
This is what Professor Harvey Kaye has to say about it.
And that is, to what extent will Bernie Sanders now take on the role of not only addressing the immediate crisis, but encouraging Americans and mobilizing Americans, even in our isolation, to be thinking towards the election and beyond? And I don't mean rallying to the Joe Biden campaign. Hell, if I were behind doors, I'd be Bernie threatening to literally hold my voters out in November if the Democrats didn't come forward with a Medicare for All plan that they were all going to stand behind. But beyond that, it's also a question of how do we encourage labor unions to move through the airwaves, basically through the internet, to try to encourage workers to organize in their own fashion. I mean, I think back in many ways to the 30s and the 40s, and I think that it may well be the case. Look, we've been developing an alternative media. Back then, there was a labor press. There were labor radio shows. We've been developing an alternative media for a populist, progressive kind of action. We've got you guys in the morning. We've got folks like the Majority Report during the day. We've got the Young Turks at night. So we have the basis for, if you like, mobilizing. And in fact, we have any number of technologies that enable us to move together. I even fantasized, this may sound strange, during the lead up to the war and during the war, there were efforts to mobilize people by way of shows, literally shows. So why don't progressive entertainers and others think about online YouTube shows that have a progressive bent and are at the same time entertaining? I mean, this is the moment. This is clearly the moment for action. We have voices in labor. Sarah Nelson's is the finest. We have young politicians like AOC. These folks have to really start thinking together and have to start thinking about how to mobilize, because we're either going to face another Trump administration, and how are we going to seriously resist, not just, resist, but seriously resist.
Right.
And or if by some chance, some really bizarre chance, Joe Biden beats Donald Trump, then the fact is we need to be mobilized on the left, broadly, working people and others, to be able to push Biden to do things he would never otherwise do.
So that's where we come in. I don't trust the Young Turks at night. I don't trust Sam Seder in the daytime. We need truly left shows to watch that will show us where the corporate media have failed us. And we need the boomers to watch those shows. So if you get a chance, please put this show in front of their attention. If you get a chance, go to Revolt Against Plutocracy Rap Sheet Facebook page and help spread the word there. If you're stuck at home and you're tired of playing video games, then join the revolution on the internet. Professor K was right about that. We do have another means of fighting back. Yes, the serious revolution where we're piling into the streets is coming. But in the meantime, let's get onto the interwebs and let's fight the battle there.
Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernier bus train.
The preceding episode can be viewed on the YouTube channel Bernie or Bust Television.